Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now. Yo, what's happening? You're listening to Hyphenate Halftime with me, Randy Randall, and my very special co-host, Mr. Aaron Farley. How you doing, Aaron Farley?
I'm good. Thanks for.
Do you mind if I call you
having me?
Very special.
Always. Yeah, enjoy it. I'm into it.
Okay. VSCH. You can be the VSCH over here. Very special co-host.
Perfect.
At some point, we'll get it. We'll get it dialed in. And today we are going to be talking about last week's episode with the main earthquaker himself, Mr. Jamie Stillman, from Earthquaker Devices. Yeah. What did you think of the episode?
I mean, first thing I have to say that my first thing in my notes is that I love your intro music.
Oh man!
I don't know
thanks.
if you had put that. I don't know if you had put that on before the last two that I listened to, and how it comes in with the drums like that. I'm like, that's such a perfect way. It's such a perfect way. It's like from that 2 seconds, you're like, oh wait, it's Randy's show.
Oh, good.
I love it.
Thank you. That is a track called Whisper Shark, I think, that I made a few years ago. I think it was, they got the name from a writer. My oldest son has been very into sharks since he saw Finding Nemo at like age 2. So sharks have been kind of a constant thing. And so I was looking for a name. I think I just made the track just for myself, just messing around in the studio. And then I heard him. And then I keep a notepad. I don't know if you do this in your phone, or in my phone. I have like one of those notes app pages up, and it's just called names of things. And it just as things hit my ear, going through life, like that sounds funny. That sounds like a name of a band or a name of a thing. Like that should be a name of something. And then I'll just write it down in there. And so I have a kind of ongoing, always revolving list of names of things. So I have to name something. It's like, okay, let me consult my random list. Yeah,
I have an art ideas list that I go through. It's like good. I'll go through. I'll have usually they come in spurts. So it's like I'll have like 100 ideas in 2 days, and then I'll oh, this is great. And it's not even ideas. Sometimes it's just names, or sometimes it's how words going together in a strange way or something. Got to remember this. And then I never look at it. Do you look at yours? Do you go back to it often? No.
Only when it's needed. I think, when I need to find a name for something, usually if we're making a record or something, I need a name of a song or something. I'll just kind of throw it out there, and they don't always stand up to the test of time. Some things just get lost. Like I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what that meant. And other things like just kind of hit your ear funny out of context.
Like the riffs on your phone. Like, oh, I got one. Do you have a list? Do you have a phone?
No.
You can't. You don't have.
I can't do that anymore. No, because I never go back and listen to it. It's if I write it and I can remember it, then it's good. If I don't remember it, then it wasn't good enough for me to waste the time trying to record stuff and then go back to even listen to it. It's tedious, and it's probably all garbage. I did it for a while, and I would go back and listen to it. And I'm like, these are all terrible ideas. Like they did not deserve the time spent.
But they seemed so good. Yeah. They were mind blowing at the time.
Of course,
they were perfect.
Yeah,
in every way. I can't believe I thought of this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, at the time, you can be blown away by yourself.
Something will come up every once in a while in my iTunes, like it'll be some old phone track or something from like 10 years ago or something. Like, what is this? Like, click it, and I was like, whatever. Like, who is? Oh my god, this is like a drunk at 2 a.m. with my guitar plugged in. No one's home. Yeah, it's funny.
Amazing.
So
No,
funny,
most
man.
of mine are like, quiet, finger plucky Spanish melody things. They're just cringe explosions. I'm like, God, what was I thinking? Like, it's just so sensitive. Hold on, like blink blonk, blink blonk,
Yeah.
blink. Like,
Maybe
there's
I'll
no
go in a
melody.
completely
There's no
different way.
part there. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's nothing there. That's terrible. I know what that chord is, and I just was playing a chord and arpeggiating for, like picking my fingers up and moving it around. Like, oh, that's not a song. That is not fuel for anything. But I was
Oh
going
my
to say,
God, it's
from that
amazing.
list of names of things we had, that's where the title of the No Age record, "Snares Like a Haircut," came from. It was through, Dean and I driving on tour, and we were talking about music and how certain music will stand out because the sound of a snare always gives away the era or the time, the style of the music.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like Born in the USA, in theory, could be a 50s record. It could sound like it was recorded in 50s or 60s or something, because it's a very kind of traditional rock, blues based sort of earnest, singer songwriter Americana. But you get those big, gated snare drums, the Max Weinberg, those opening Born in the USA.
Yeah.
And it just instantly puts you in the 80s. You know exactly when that was made. And much like if you were to look at a photo of somebody, the clothes can change. You don't always quite know, like, oh, they're just wearing jeans in a t-shirt. Like, that could be a million things. But then you see the mullet and you're like, that's in the 90s. I know exactly when that is. Or you see the feathered sides. You go, 70s, early 80s. I know exactly where that is. I can place it.
Got it.
The clothes you can wear a costume, or you can have a period thing, but the haircut is going to give it away for what looked normal at the time.
Oh my
Because
God,
a lot
so
like how the
true.
snare sounded. This was a conversation we had, and so I think we're writing weird notes, like, that's the name of, or just writing down these funny ideas. And so I was like, that could be a good name for a record.
Snares Like a Haircut. Perfect.
Yeah.
Hold on, were you
Maybe
hearing that
something
bird again? Sorry.
No.
The bird from last
this is
week.
The
I think I
ongoing
just
Bird
heard
Chronicles.
it again.
Is it back? Return of the Bird.
Let me just close the door really quick. Maybe you can edit this.
Okay.
Just a second.
Yes. No. This is all staying in there. This is the Aaron Farley Bird files. I think last time we figured out that it was his cat who stalks the birds outside.
Yes.
This is your cat, right? That stalks the birds, and then the birds attack the cat.
The birds let the whole neighborhood know when the cat is outside. So basically, the second the cat steps out the door, there's like multiple blue jays in the backyard that they must be just watching for the cat all day. They must just be on patrol. And we have a cat across the street. But then it drives our dog crazy, because then now she knows that when the birds are going, that means there's a cat outside. And so she'll go running outside to try to find out where the cat is.
Amazing. It's an ecosystem of sound. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So Jamie Stillman, were you familiar with Earthquaker devices and the pedals before? What was your kind of awareness, and what'd you think?
Yeah. I mean, I know of Earthquaker. I don't have any Earthquaker pedals, but I mean, I just know of the pedal company. I didn't know of Jamie or any of his bands. I didn't know of any of his history or anything. And but I know, I mean, I was super interested to hear it, because all of you guys that are still playing, everybody is like Earthquaker devices, loves them, has respect for them. They look cool. I mean, they look super interesting and unique and weird. And so even just like hearing him start to talk, he sounded like Dan Harmon. You know Dan Harmon?
Oh, okay, yeah.
His voice sounded almost exact. He had like that same cadence, or whatever that cadence is. And I'm like, I'm into this. 100%. I love this. It's like kind of relaxed but intense. And and I could just tell, I'm like, oh, this is good. I mean, I think anybody who's put their whole life into something that started as tinkering and is now a major company, it's going to be a interesting conversation anyway, because there's enough obsessiveness there, I think, that is like has gone in push him in a positive way. That
totally. Well, I think it's similar to, sorry to jump on you, but I think it's similar to like Oliver Ackerman. You know what I mean? These are two pedal makers. I mean, and again, my guest booking very much belies my background and my very skewed, areas of interest, guitar pedals being high on the list of things I care about. But but I think it was really fun to just hear what, to go from like playing in a band to making a circuit to then it just growing. It's like, I don't think I could ever do it. I don't think I have it I just don't think I have that brain of like, let's a circuit. You do this, this, this,
Yeah. Well, and I loved the fact that he talked about how he didn't go to it through like modeling the sound on a computer first, or modeling the sound and trying to get that sound, that he was like taking apart pedals, or he would have a slightly broken pedal, or someone else would bring him a slightly broken pedal, but they wanted that sound to be there all the time. So he had to like fix the broken pedal so it would be a working broken pedal. So it would stop breaking, but it would stay at that point. And that it seemed so much more like, I don't know, being a sculptor or like, I mean, I guess a musician. I mean, it's like he's building, instead of building songs with these things, he's building these devices that will kind of self-repeat, but they all sound so unique in the way that they're made that it seems, I love the tinkering aspect, to tinker with something until it works and then figure out why it's working. Or even he said he didn't even know why some of them worked, but he would get him to the point to where the sounds would make certain sounds. And he's like, whoop, this is where I stop. Okay, cool. I did it.
Yeah.
Now just remake this. Don't ask too many questions. Don't ask, like, it's perfect. It sounds great. And I loved that, that mindset of just being like almost hands off a little bit, of just like, I don't know. We're going to see where this goes,
I think it's great. It's almost like, when does a repeatable mistake just become the plan? You keep repeating the same mistake over and over again. Like, no, it's just the thing, and how it's the correct way to do it. You just created something new. You became an innovator versus just a professional mistake maker.
Yeah, totally. I think like even as he talked about like how he kind of, even when he was talking about his own pedal board later on, is like he always had to have like some kind of echo or reverb. It's like whatever there has to be like a fuzz and an echo and reverb, and then it's just like there's those all go in different ways, but he knows that's what he likes, and so that's where he kind of starts, and then he just kind of like builds off of little things from there. And I think it's so, I mean, you could speak to this more, but it's so much more like when you're in a band and you're writing songs and you kind of know what you want the sound to be ish, with the vibe. You got a vibe, and then you like just take little chunks of this and that and add and subtract from that vibe. And I thought that was cool, that it wasn't just a pedal maker, like, we're trying to make every single kind of pedal that it's the most, that every pedal is for the most amount of people as possible, and that these are very like unique sounding. Like I imagine when they release a pedal, everyone's like, well, I don't know what that's going to sound like. Like I want to
right.
Whereas if a big pedal company is like, here's a new pedal, you're probably like, oh, that's probably a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Where these seem so unique that I just love that idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. I think Oliver does the same thing too with Death by Audio, but it's this idea of like, you have to make something almost hyper niche, in order to stand out, because everybody can make a Tube Screamer clone or can make a Big Muff clone. I think that's what I've come to understand in sort of the pedal boutique market. It's, you can open up any pedal that you buy, and if it's not digitally programmed, if it's point to point soldering, you could identify what all the pieces are in there, and then for 50 cents and some maybe $20 shipping, you could buy all those same components and make your own. It's just as a form of like mirror copying, just to figure out what it is. But to do something that's actually unique, or you have your own spin on your own kind of like artistic sort of flair to those designs and those circuits. I think that's really what makes something like Earthquaker device stand out. Something like their Rainbow Machine is this insanity kind of ring modulator, multiplier, frequency splitter thing that just it's kind of sounds, it's more synth like, But again, I imagine I have to imagine it sort of came about in some haphazard sort of way, like, whoa, we did this and add this and put this thing on, take that thing away, and just becomes this sort of like happy, messy accident, in some ways.
Well, and I loved how you guys talked about the pedals being in like kind of a key. I think you said like a magic key, where you're like running your music through these pedals, and then the pedal just will kind of open up the sounds or open up the ideas to be this extra kind of boost of what it can be, or that you then end up having all of these kind of dials and modules that you can use that end up being you. It ends up being this sound you're searching for, of like, I mean, that's what I think is interesting too about all of this, is like what makes sound interesting to you, and that sound to me is like, I don't know, I don't get it, I don't hear it, but to you it could open up some huge thing. And that's such an amazing to have all these pedals and all these devices that eventually you're kind of tuning them into whatever frequency you're trying to get out there, and depending on the size of the room, and I loved that conversation too. I'd never heard of that. I mean, I always just played as loud as possible and didn't have any of that whole up and down quiet loud thing.
Yeah.
but that I had never even really thought about that, of like having to turn certain reverbs down or whatever because the room couldn't deal with it, or because it got too muddy, or having to turn the gain up, or the high end or the low end up, or
well, I mean, this is cool. Yeah, this is like master's level thesis, places when you as a guitarist actually consider the audience, you're at black belt level. I mean, I'd say 90% of people who play guitar, fuck the audience is their first thought. If you had to ask them, like, what about them? There's no point in the audience. But I think for that idea, just the, tripping out a little bit on just the idea of boutique pedals, or like you were kind of saying, this like talisman or totemism of musical instruments or musical effects, these boxes unlock something, or you need this. And I think especially as a younger guitar player, that's 100% where I was at. You're looking for some extension of your own, play phallicness, if you take it to a Freudian level, but extension of yourself, of your ego, of your id, of something. How do you extend yourself, make yourself louder? So a bigger soapbox, a louder speaker, louder microphone, of just, this is me, acknowledge my existence. I'm not insignificant, as we all kind of feel as teenagers and then into our 20s. And but I think these guitars and guitar pedals and all of that sort of stuff, I think there is a lot of that kind of like the unlocking some type of like new expression or new experience. Like, I just got this thing. Now I wrote, I've definitely had done that, where you get a pedal and then write a song around that, and then you can take the pedal away and you can still play the song. You don't need it. You come to find out, 5 years down the line of your career, when you lose it or it gets stolen or it gets broken, like, I'm never going to play that song again. And then you do play it, and you're like, oh, no one noticed that pedal was there or not there. No one cares if I play it, how I play it. If I play a Strat or if I play a Les Paul, no one in the audience cares. But guarantee, 100% everybody who's playing that guitar cares a lot. Have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to have that exact guitar that they're presenting to you that no one cares about.
Yeah. Well, and
did you see the Barbie movie?
I think it's cool. Hold on one second. I think that it's cool to hear that or to think of an instrument or a pedal or an amp as an extension of your personality. Like when you guys were talking about that, because I remember being in a band for 10 years ish, but that I was like, oh, I'm going to get this little pedal or this, I got a couple, I traded some stuff for these like distortion pedals and all this and tried to put them in. And I never got past, I always went back to just having a Rat, a Big Muff, and an Echo. And that was it. And then like I would have all these other ones like, "Ugh, it just doesn't work. Okay, bring back the big muff, bring back the rat. And then eventually I'm like, I think that's just, and those were my first 2 pedals I ever got. And I'm like, I think I just nailed it the first time. I think I just like those were the 2, and this is just the whatever. And I couldn't even tell you why the sound was better or what it even was, but I'm like, I don't know. It just feels, that's what it feels. So, but I had never really even just thought about that until you guys had that conversation. I'm like, oh yeah. And even with the SG thing, like I had tried other guitars and then was like, the second I got my hands back on an SG, I'm like, I think I just like SGs. And that's it. And I don't know. I mean, why do you think you like SGs? I couldn't even name it. What that even is. Like even how he said that he loves the what did he say? The Jazz Master?
Oh yeah. Yep.
He was like he's had like 100 Jazz Masters. Yeah. And I think that's just so interesting of having those things be this extension of you. Like you're choosing them, but they're almost kind of choosing you too. It's like, no. Look at my shape. Come here. Come to me.
This is it that fits. Yeah. Well, I think, it could be compared, I think fashion's not very far off, you know what I mean? Where you like a certain kind of shoe or certain kind of pants or jackets. And, it probably sounds belittling to, the idea of, these guitars or a whole like category of instruments, but you like what you like and their styles and it's sort of how you want to dress. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no one right way to get dressed and go out the house. You can put a scarf or a big top hat and 10 other beanies and, shit pieces of flair dangling from your belt. You know what I mean? But it's like in the same way, you don't need that. You could go out of your house, in whatever, some shorts and flip flops. So, I think the nature of just playing your guitar really, it sounds so funny at this point because I think at my age, I like, oh yeah, none of it matters. It's all fine. But, I would have fought tooth and nail, to people, who said like, this guitar sucks. Like, I can tell you why this is the best guitar in the world. It's the best amp. Yeah, right. These were, identifiers and things that, were, so close to my identity and like were, versions of myself that I couldn't see it that way. But I do think it is interesting. And I think it makes sense. The bigger macro picture I see is like all these boutique guitar makers and this kind of thing of the hyper nicheification of a subset of a subset of a subset sort of feels a lot like how our culture at writ large is going, you know what I mean? Where it's not just about, we all watched one show or watched a movie, but it's like you watch the thing and then behind the scenes or the thing, or you watch the thing the other guy did, or you have a whole, or, like even podcasts like this, you can kind of involve yourself in like just being hyper niche and you can just kind of craft and curate your own media experience in such a way that just was impossible with like 3 networks and then cable and then totally. As television's kind of gone down this road, you can. I even see it with my kids, they just want to watch YouTube, and it's like we subscribe to all these things. You got the Hulu and a Amazon and Netflix and the thing and the Disney, and they spend millions of dollars to make this, and they the kids just vote with their attention span. Like, I want to watch 30 seconds clips of this guy playing with his cat. Yeah. Okay. Totally. That beat. Like sorry, Disney. You're up against kids with iPhones, filming themselves doing stuff, and people just want to see that reflection, that mirror back. I think that probably mirrors the closer to their own experience, rather than seeing a big animated, heavy blockbuster thing. They're just seeing kids like themselves doing things that they like. Yeah, and it's so and everything changes. Like it's so immediate. I think that's. I mean, I see that so much with Towns and what he wants to watch. It's like all the people that he watches, they put stuff up every couple days, and it's like, it's just random stuff, or they're commenting on other people's videos or whatever, and he's just like, it's like, you want me to watch a whole show? Why would I watch a half an hour of one thing? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's strange. But I think but it's the same, where it's not that it's like fast fashion, but it is like, try this new pedal, try it out. And then there's all of these kind of like places on a third market space too. You can buy a pedal, or you can buy new or used, and you try it out. If you like it, great, keep it. If you don't, you just put it back on the market, and you can get
Yeah.
close to your money back with it too. It sort of seems like there's a real active, sort of guitar pedal world out there, and people are making videos about them. You can check them out. You can use them for all these different sort of purposes, and it doesn't seem as taboo. I think there was a lot of stuff, those early days of, or even older guitar players too, was like, oh, I don't use any pedals. No pedals. Just go straight into the amp. And there's something to be said for that. But I do think it's just at this point we've broken past the nerd factor of like, oh, you use pedals. I think it's just kind of everybody everywhere. They've been canonized as in here are the top 10 greats that everybody needs, and then you just go down the line and kind of tweak to your taste to find out which version of a weird version you like of a thing.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I think what's cool is that we are of an age, like maybe even the last generation, that didn't have the internet when we were young. And I keep all of these conversations, even how everything happens now, I try to remember back about, I'm like, how did we all used to talk to each other? Like, how did we used to know things were going on? It was such a word of mouth thing. And it's such a, like, even, thinking now, it's like whenever I'm going to buy something, I always look it up on YouTube and see if there's a, someone has like what something looks like, or some camera thing or whatever. It's like, oh, how's that? What's the deal with that lens? Oh, there's probably 22 people from different countries who have done reviews. Let me see if I can find one that talks about the information I'm looking for. And even with pedals, it's like you can see how they sound before you even buy them. It was never the case. Like maybe if you went to Guitar Center, they might have the one thing you are looking to buy, maybe, but not if it was boutique or something weird. And you just have to like, well, we'll see if it works. I read in an interview that Kurt Cobain had this pedal on his pedal board, or whatever. And it's like, well, then it must be good. I'm going to get that, But it's so interesting. There was so much more like guesswork, where I think now there's less guesswork, but that brings about more experimentation. So it's like, it's more interesting that way because there's just more stuff. There's more like, and I think people are much more open-minded now than they were 20 years ago with stuff.
Yeah. I mean, even to the point too, where, stuff just becomes more digital, you run into these like digital, like, heads, guitar simulators, and things like that. You can just, have all that kind of stuff. And now you just take one little box instead of a whole amp stack on tour. I think Metallica is always, they're kind of the biggest name of people that are just using Kempner amp modelers on stage.
Oh, really?
And they sound great. And they're Metallica. And they do it. And I don't even think they have like the dummy cabs, that you used to have, or just like the empty wall of guitar cabinets to make it look like you're playing through it. I think it looks like the pictures I've seen. They just kind of walk around on a custom built stage with large grates that James Hetfield can fall into, but they just have wireless things, big set up
smoke machines
and it's a whole other world of stuff, and it sounds great, obviously, or they wouldn't be using it, and so I think that this, those debates of what's right or wrong, I think guitar in 2023 is a much more accepting, wide open field than it was when we were nervous punks in the 90s going to Guitar Center trying to figure out like what you could afford with your lawn cutting money. Like, I think I'll have this flanger. I remember that was one of the first things I bought, like flanger. I'm like, oh no, why did I buy that? I don't even think I tried it out. I was just like pointing at stuff that looked cool. I pointed it out and bought a stereo flanger.
What was that?
I need one of these.
Was that the what color was that pedal? Green?
Silver. Was it it was like silver. It was a DOD one.
Oh, the DOD
not
one.
the Boss one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Again, not knowing. I didn't know what it was. I just kind of pointed at and picked it out. And I didn't even think I could play. I couldn't even play a song or notes or chords or anything. But there was something about a pedal. I thought I needed that because I saw people had them. They had them on stage, and I didn't know what they were, what they did. But it's like, okay, before I learn anything, let me make sure I have a cool sound.
Isn't it so funny about how much guesswork there was back then?
Oh, of course.
Like you just guessed about everything. You didn't know. You'd read about something and it would just stick in your head and you'd go, wow, okay, that sounds cool. Where do I find that thing?
Yeah, I think Jamie was awesome. I was so stoked I'd gotten to meet him, and that he was willing to come on the show and talk all things guitar pedals. What any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I just love the conversations that you're having with these people because they're so detailed about. I mean, obviously you're talking about pedals, but it got so into kind of the why he makes them, which I love that. I love that kind of that artistic side of why people do what they do, and I think this was like a just a really cool conversation that went through his whole history of why. And he was so calm when I looked at the Earthquaker site and I was going through it. And I was like, oh my God, there's like 45 employees. Company is this big. I had no idea.
It's huge.
There's
Yeah,
just
it's huge.
like this.
Yeah.
It just kept going and going. I'm like, all these people work there. Oh my God, this is massive. I just kept thinking it was kind of smaller because, I don't know that much, but yeah. So even after I looked through the site and I was like, oh wow, he's being very kind of like calm and like, yeah, sometimes I just sit around and tinker. I'm like, really? How do you have time to sit around and tinker? This is a massive company you're running here, buddy.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, it was, almost, I thought I'd start a label a couple years ago, and I don't know if that was going to work out. And then, I'm still playing in bands, and I'm like, oh my God, where does he get all this time? But yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Go out to earthquakerdevices.com and go buy more pedals. And thank you, Jamie, for sitting down with me. And thank you, Aaron. Where can people find you, Aaron? What are your plugs? Where do you want people to go learn more about aaronfarley.com?
Yeah, aaronfarley.com and just Aaron Farley on Instagram is probably what I update the most.
Awesome.
AaronFarleyProjects.com also for the art.
There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.